Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe vom SI Talk. Ich bin nach wie vor in Wien und mache Interviews und ich habe mir das Equipment ausgeborgt vom Kollegen Joachim Steiger von Rohstoff TV und Commodity TV. Schauen Sie übrigens einmal ein, wirklich interessante Webseite, finden Sie viele Interviews, viele gute Companies und ja, bin froh, habe mein Equipment nicht selber schleppen müssen und deswegen ist es natürlich umso mehr Freude, Interviews zu machen. Neben mir sitzt Alain Lambert, er ist Chairman und Co-Founder von Cyprium Mining und Cyprium Mining hat in den letzten Tagen extrem viele News gehabt. Unter anderem war heute, Donnerstag, eine News, dass sie mit Toll Milling gestartet haben. Toll Milling, vielleicht nochmal Erklärung, das ist eigentlich Fremderzverarbeitung. Das heißt, sie kaufen eigentlich Erz von anderen kleinen Minen ein, also von den lokalen, wirklich Kleinstminen, wo nur ein paar Leute arbeiten und kaufen dort das Erz ein, verarbeiten das in ihre Anlage und teilen dann meistens den Profit mit den Minenbetreiber. Alan, thank you to have time. Today you're coming up with the news that you will start with your toll milling plan in Mexico. So maybe you can explain a little bit what toll milling is and also how the business concept is working on the toll milling process.
Okay, super. Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. So toll milling, in our case, is in northern Mexico, Chihuahua State. And toll milling is a reference to processing services to small miners. So northern Mexico is characterized with a large number of small mines. Some of them are very high-grade, rich mines that can be put into production, but they're too small to have their own mill. So we have a mill in a city called Aldama, just outside of Chihuahua City in the state of Chihuahua. And we deal with a number of small miners who can't afford to have their own mills. And we buy mineralized material that comes from their mine. We truck it into our plant, we crush it, we put it into the mill, we process it, and then we come out with what we call a concentrate, mineralized concentrate, and that's the end product. So the first transformation of the rock, we sell it to a large international company that buys concentrates, and usually they'll ship it to China for final, process for the final product.
What kind of material you can work on in your mill? Is it gold, silver, copper, lead?
Our mill is what we call a flotation mill. So it can treat a lot of different types of metals. Those that you have named, so pretty much all of them, and but they need to be sulfide based as opposed to oxide based, which needs a different type of treatment. So in the case of the material that we have trucked in already the plant, and we announced this morning in our press release that we've started milling operation, the mineralized rocks contain silver, lead, and zinc.
Okay, and which capacity you will start?
The plant currently has a capacity of processing 100 tons of material per day. And our plan, as we announced when we acquired the rights to the plant, is to double that capacity. And so I'm actually returning to Mexico next week. I'm going to sit down with our engineers, our technical people. We'll finalize the plans and the budgets, and then we'll decide how quickly we can double the size of the plant.
Okay, but the interesting point is you don't buy this mill, you lease this mill from a different person.
That's right. So we want to use our capital efficiently, right? So we can either go out and build our own mill, which would cost a lot of money. We could purchase that mill, which means we had to deploy a lot of money to buy the plant, or we get into a long-term lease agreement for 5 years on an exclusive basis with an option to renew for an additional 5 years. So we don't have to deploy the capital. We look at it as a rent, long-term lease, but importantly, as part of the agreement, the technical team of Cyprium Mining is in charge of all operations. So look at it as our mill, for 5 years, maybe 10 years, and then we kind of give the keys back to the owner after.
And you will upgrade to 200 tons. So this means that the lease is going down, or you get this money back, or how this works?
We will get the money back of the investments that we make as a reduction to the fees that we pay to utilize the plant. So yes, the answer is the $400,000 as we use the plant will come back to Cyprium.
And is there enough material around in the area that you can get to feed, get enough to feed this this mill?
We think so. The state of Chihuahua has one of its characteristics that we like, that it has a lot of small mines. But the other characteristic is there are very few operating mills.
Okay.
And we've seen an influx of small miners calling us, talking to us about bringing ore to our mineralized material to our plant, especially since one of the very few plants that was offering this kind of service in the southern western part of Chihuahua closed last December. So it kind of made a difficult situation for small miners more difficult, which is good for our business.
Coming back to financials, the plan is to process 22,000 tons this year and 60,000 tons next year. But what does this mean on the cash flow base?
Okay, so this year the objective of the company is to run enough material through the mill to break even or make a little bit of money on an EBITDA basis. Okay, so that depends on a number of things, right? It depends on the type of material that comes in, the quantities, the recoveries, and so on and so forth. But that is our corporate objective. The corporate objective for next year, once we will have doubled the capacity, is to process 60,000 tons of material through the plant in 2016. And again, so if we're successful in doing the 60,000 tons, if we're successful in getting the right material into the plant, if we're successful in getting the right recoveries, our objective would be to have an EBITDA that would be pretty close to our current market cap of $6 million.
Wow. You're coming up with the financing. I think it was a convertible bond.
It was not convertible, but yes, it was. We announced at PDAC on March 3rd a $4.5 million US financing. It's a 3-year debt financing from some European investors, 12.5% yield exactly. And then just last Friday, we announced the closing of the first disbursement for $1 million US. And yesterday we announced the closing of a small equity placement for $280,000, which means that in the last 5 days we raised in Canadian dollars, if you convert the US into Canadian, $1.5 million. Now, the $1 million disbursement from the debt is going to be allocated to the Aldama plant.
Okay.
Its upgrade, its increased capacity, working capital to buy material from small miners, and to process that material.
And this debt is only going to institutional investors or also to retail and private?
No, it was 100% institutional in Europe.
Okay. And is planned to go in the rest, the $3.5 million, to raise something with private people or only also with the institution? Or
well, no. Okay. So the same debt facility. There's a $3.5 million to be disbursed further from the same institutions.
Ah, okay.
Yes, but that will be a function of the corporate developments, as we stated in the news release last Friday. So we're always evaluating additional projects, be it new mills, small mines, and so on and so forth, as it was in the news release. So if corporate development warrant further investments, we'll sit down with our investors and consider further disbursements.
Alain, thank you for the first introduction into your company. Hopefully we can do another round of interview maybe in 3-6 months, then we know much more about
Well, I would like that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Ja, es war eine ganz spannende Sache. Wie gesagt, da geht es um Tollmilling, also Fremderzverarbeitung. Ganz ein wichtiger Unterschied, also da ist kein geologisches Risiko dabei, sondern die kaufen halt einfach Erz, das irgendeine andere Mine, kleine Mine meistens irgendwo rausgeholt haben aus der Erde. Das ist so, wie wenn man eigentlich die Schaufeln und Spaten früher verkauft hat. Das ist ein ganz anderes Business, aber dafür auch viel, viel kalkulierbarer. Das Risiko ist viel, viel niedriger als beim Exploration. Und von daher ist es wirklich spannend. Und er sagt ja selber, wenn Sie nächstes Jahr Ihr Ziel erreichen von den 60.000 Tonnen, dann werden Sie ungefähr das EBITDA machen, was eigentlich die Marktkapitalisierung vom Heuer ist. Und wir haben einige Beispiele in der jüngsten Vergangenheit, Inco1 zum Beispiel, die genau mit sowas eigentlich sehr, sehr gute Erfolge gehabt haben und am Markt eigentlich auch wirklich gut für die Anleger Geld verdient haben. Also schauen Sie sich die Company an. Die Aktie ist in Deutschland auch notiert und ja, wir hören uns in Kürze und bis auf später. Tschüss.